Well, he is big as land itself, hard as a rock, loud as you hear, and he is a prince. He is Joseph Juko, the Investigator TV man or expert on land. This is the Emengo Buziba, tackling land and issues about land in Mengo, in Buganda, and in Uganda. Daniel Nabongtatia, the man from the Mineral Rich Soga, and the prince of journalism. Bulijjo mkulu nombera naye kamuleke yeyanjole natera then tusimbule.
Amanya gange nze omulangira Juko Joseph Chimba owekansiri Busiro Buganda Province muzukulu wa Kabaka Daniel basamulekere mwanga mukasa chwambere chiwanuka Kirevu Ntende Kabaka wa Buganda abatuwuliriza nsanyusa okubalaba abasubscribing amwebale. I think we also want to thank our people who are watching this program, where in the world it is morning, where it is noon, where it is evening, where it is just dawn, and where it is late in the night. Thank you for putting in the initiatives and asking the questions where you have to. We will ably address these questions as and when you ask them.
You missed to say where it's winter and where it's summer.
Depending on where the weather is.
Anyway,
No, depending on where the world is, every time we have winter. If the sun is overhead the Tropic of Capricorn, there is winter in South Africa. If the world if the sun is overhead the Tropic of Cancer, then we have winter in another part of the world. So it is very important that we work through the environments, but please don't forget to subscribe for this program.
Yes, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, don't forget to share.
Thank you.
Into about land. No one is safe as we talk.
Yes. Previously, we did a program here. There is a lady called Rebecca who is based in the United Kingdom. She is very involved in the matter to do with Njeru land.
Oh,
the one we talked about for that where several a Ugandan citizen called Severino Kahindo Tafire is involved. This lady has information that that bears to that cause, and she has a claim per se. She has an alleged claim per se. We'll be looking at her information when she sends it in, and we'll be informing her on the. We'll be investigating the matter to the root so that everyone in this matter gets justice, from Severino Kahindo Tafire to Rebecca and all the parties involved. So please keep abreast with our programs. We'll keep communicating with you both online and offline, so that you were able to give you the sufficient and appropriate information that bears to your interest therein.
Yes, the road in the management of land registration and administration finally unearthed. Last time we handled
Mengo Buziba kati.
Last time we handled the problem itself. Letugamba nti tubadde tulwanisanga flames ez'omuliro. But it's the time now we get to
the root cause and then provide a solution.
Yes.
True.
Era twayogera ku mukyalo gwe bayita Dorkas Okalanyi,
CEO wa Ministry of Lands, the permanent secretary of Lands. Yes.
Nga bwe buzibu. Why should Dorkas Okalanyi be held liable for the mismanagement of land?
Dorkas Okalanyi is the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. The role of permanent secretaries in ministries is to carry out the administration role of the ministry. And that administration role includes and is limited to solving social risk, legal risk, economic risk, political risk, and technological risk. So all the affairs that take place in Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development at an administrative level are handled by the Permanent Secretary, who is Dorkas Okalanyi. That is why, because land is one of the units, one of the cost centers in the ministry, Dorkas Okalanyi is totally liable for establishing management information systems and internal controls sufficient and appropriate to manage the cost center that deals with land administration and land registration in Uganda. So it is with that wisdom that Dorkas Okalanyi is totally liable for land accountability.
Aline chintu yengo omuntu. Chiyali suppose okola kyatakola?
Yeah, of recent we have do you know that the other day the Minister of Lands Omuchala Honorable Nabakova came out in the public and advised that those with Vivanja advised that she's trying to create a law that is going to enable those with Vivanja to be able to deposit their envujo and busuru at the Gomborora. Now, that solution is good, but the problem with it is it is a firefighting solution. First of all, before us thinking about creating a law that takes busuru for Vivanja holders to Gomborora, we need to understand who the Chivanja holder is. Tuino kutegira we Chivanja yani. Ochitegedde. Buli muntu ayite we Chivanja mu mutwegwe muberamu implication nti ayinani landlord. Era oli agenda okufuuka tayinza kufuuka wa kibanja nga teyafuna lukusa lwa landlord kugenda kuki ku ttaka. Kitegeeza nti waliwo abantu mu bwongo bwa minisita balowooza nti baabibanja naye nga tesi baabibanja. Obanga baabibanja
President Museveni naye yakyogeddeko.
Obanga baabibanja obanga baabibanja naye nga ba landlord baabwe tebamanyi we bali. Okimanyi nti omuntu ow'ekibanja okufuuka ow'ekibanja afuuka wa kibanja ku muntu alina mayiro ngeri registered. Ekyo wali okirowoozezaako. So omuntu ofuuka ow'ekibanja kitegeeza aba alina mayiro landlord ali registered. Ani atereka register ani atereka era akulira okutabaganya n'okuddukanya ebyettaka mu bya mayiro land mu Uganda. Si Dorkas Okalanyi. So kikakata ku minister ogenda ewa Dorkas Okalanyi n'amubuuza naye mayiro zange zenina zezino balandirodi baazo baliwa okuva mu lubereberye. Tuddayo wali ku ekiri tatya kye twazuula juzi. Jukire twali tukola investigation wano nga tuwa abantu initial reports okubawa ku snippet erimu ku bubbi bw'ettaka. Twabalaga nti omukyala Sara Basangwa Kurata yatula mu management omwali Permanent Secretary Dorkas Okalanyi, Minister of Lands then Daudi Migereko, n'abantu abalala abakulira Minister of Lands ne basalawo bawandiikire Commissioner wa Surveys and Mapping Entebbe abawe records zonna ezikwatagana ku mataka gonna agali mu Buganda kyekisooka, ku mataka gonna agakolifayinga Mwankole free landlord and tenant law n'amataka gonna agali registered under the Toro landlord and tenant law. Kitegeeza records zino nga omukulu Dorkas Okalanyi basazeewo baziyita era amanyi we ziri. So mbadde nsaba minisita Naabakuba ndowooza ebbaluwa eyo tagiyina. Mu koosi ya wiiki eno, leero si Friday, mu koosi ya wiiki eddako nja kutwala obuvunaanyizibwa mutwalire ebbaluwa eyo yali internal memo gye baakola nga bayita ebyapa by'abantu bonna abali mu Buganda era abalina ebyapa ebikadde nga babiyita okuva Entebbe Bukalanyi ne Kurata babitwale. So bino ebya minisita kuba okutwala ssente ku Gomborora kitegeeza nti bagenda creating omulimu oguteetaagisa. anti kati jukira nti it is something to do with money. Kitegeeza alina okufuna principal, bafune accountant, bafune ne accountant junior. Omulimu gwe kugombolola, kukuŋŋaanya ki sente za busuulu. Naye jjukira nti amagombolola mangi nnyo mu Buganda, nti bwe tu-establishinga etteeka bwe lityo tujja kwesanga nga tu-increases human resource cost mu public service. So ku-avoidinga human resource cost eyo tuyina okumakinga sure Okalanyi Dorkas Wageni ne Sarah Basangwa kulata balete records. Olaba ekitabo kino ekituli mu maaso wano bwana Tatia. Zino baziyita gazettes. Mu program eddako gye tunaakola subsequent nja kuleeta certified gazette records. Abantu bonna abayina amataka mu Buganda baawandiikibwa mu gazeeti zino. Ndowooza olaba kati kiri kyekyalo oyo ye muntu ze details z'ettaka eryo. Era abamu ku bantu bange balina meeting ne Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, omukyala Honorable Nabakuba. Bali mu meeting eyo ne Permanent Secretary ne baddira record ya gazette okuva 1900 paka 1935 ne bagirekera omukulu Honorable Nabakuba. Singa tukwata gazette zino kuba records weeziri ne tugenda nga twa-identifyinga baani bannannyini mataka, ne tugenda ne tufuna cadastre map sheets, ne tukwata ebiwandiiko Dorkas Wageni Okalanyi, Sarah Kulata Basangwa bye baatwala, tujja kusobola okumanya baani bannannyini mayiro. Bwe tumala okumanya baani bannannyini mayiro, tujja kuemployinga ba government bagayi mu Department of Survey and Mapping abakolera already mu Ministry of Lands, bagende nga be-establishinga bantu ki abayina abantu abali ku mayiro ezo era bajjako batya. Ekyo kijja kutuyamba emirundi egi, kijja kutuyamba okumanya abantu ab'ebibanja be baani, era kijja kutuyamba okumanya baani abeesenza ku ttaka nga tebafunye lukusa. Kwe tumanda okumanya bannannyini bibanja bye baani, tugende mu maaso turegistaringa income braces zaabwe ku ki ku titles z'abalina mayiro. Then government yetule n'abamayiro bateese engeri ki gye bagenda okuwaamu ab'ebibanja certificates of occupancy n'amount y'obusuulu ab'ebibanja gye banaakola ki gye banaasasula. Kati ekyo kijja kuyambako okumalawo emigozoobano egiriwo mu makati g'abannannyini mayiro n'abaki n'ab'ebibanja. Kati mbadde nsaba mukulu Tatya eyo gazette nsaba osomerawo weetandikira olabe kiki yagambanga.
Okay, this is the Uganda Official Gazette number 417 of 1913. The Buganda Agreement in brackets allotment and survey 1913. The land officer hereby gives notice that the surveys of the blocks noted below have been completed and the estates mentioned in the second columns of these schedules here too have been surveyed and demarcated on plans. And that the approximate areas of such respective estates are those shown in the third columns of the schedules, and that their owners have been ascertained to be respectively the persons whose names are given in the fifth columns of the schedules opposite to the names of each estate.
Soko komao. Olaba nti omusajja agamba nti ettaka balikubye.
Yes.
Bali delineatinze ne bali ejinga red. Era be-establishize baani bannannyini baalyo. Edda nga tebannaba kukuwa kyapa, surveys and mapping yakubanga ettaka lyo. Bwe mala okulikuba ne bafulumya ebiwandiiko, ettaka eryo baaligazeetinganga. Bwe bamalanga okuligazeetinga ne balyoka bagenda maaso ne bakolera ki ekyapa. So olaba nti information etawaanya Minisita Naabakoba already ba Dorkas Wageni Okalanyi bagiyina. Naye kimanyi nti Dorkas Wageni Okalanyi tayinza kuvaayo n'agamba Minisita nti ekyo ky'obadde ogezaako okukola olede tulina engeri gye tuyinza okukikolamu kubanga Dorkas Wagemye Okalanyi tamanyi ngeri ki gye balina kuddukanyamu kitongole kya byattaka mu Uganda naye ate sigamba nti webuno obudde tumugobe kuba Dorkas Wagemye Okalanyi wankizo nnyo mu kutuwa records ze yatwala ne Ssaabasangwa Kulata ez'ettaka eri abantu ba Buganda Abankole Tooro Busoga naye wantu wonna ewali customary land badde nsaba ogende mu maaso.
It continues and reads, if any person other than those ascertained as aforesaid claims to be the owner under a provisional certificate of any land in any of the blocks noted below, he is hereby required to give notice of such claim in writing to the land officer within 1 month from the date of publication of this notice in the official gazette, and to attend at such time and place as the land officer may direct for the purpose of substantiating such claim. This notice is given in accordance with the paragraph 13 of the Buganda Agreement, Allotment and Survey 1913, which bars the rights of claimants who fail to comply with this notice. Entebbe, Uganda. This gazette from Entebbe, Uganda, 3rd September 1913. Ndowooza ffenna wano abali wano.
Ndowooza okirabye.
Twogera ku ki
ekyaliwo ekyakolebwa era ebiwandiiko eby'ennono.
Era eyakiwandika n'agamba yali Raymond C. Allen, land officer.
Entebbe. Katuteeka awo ekitabe.
Kati bano ba Okalanyi.
Kati records zino Dorkas Wagemye Okalanyi, Ssaabasangwa Kulata, Robert Nyombi, ono omusajja omukulu yali minisita wa land aveye wammwe David Migereko bamanyi records zino we ziri. Nsaba minisita akubire omukulu Daudi Migereko bakomyewo ebiwandiiko by'ettaka ebiri detailed bye baleeta. In fact gazette eno okumanya nnungi eyina ne interpretation yayo mu Luganda gye nsaba nayo osomera abantu yene eddako wano kuba kibi byosomye mu Luzungu bivundulwa wano ate mu Luganda.
Yes, translation into Luganda. Endagaano ya Buganda okugaba n'okukuba Mailo 1913 nti omukulu wa Mailo kakano ategeereza wano nti okukuba kwa Mailo mu bitundu bino ebiwandikiddwa wansi kuwedde, era ategeeza nti ebyalo ebyo ebiwandikiddwa mu kibangirizi ekyo.
Leta nsome Oluganda lujja kutawaana. Omukulu wa Mailo kaakano ategeeza wano nti okukuba kwa Mailo mu bitundu ebiwandiikiddwa mu kiwandiiko but I can't. Bundi letters are small. I cannot see, but I can read it. Nayenga Raymond
okukuba Mailo
kuwedde era n'abantu be balutinze be bano. N'agenda maaso n'agamba naye singa wabeerawo omuntu ng'ettaka lye lyakubwa ne libanga n'azuula nti liwandiikiddwa mu mannya g'abano abantu abali wano, beetaaga ajje abuulire owa surveys and mapping tebakolamu ensobi wano mu nnaku 3, then nga tebannabakola ki kola byapa. Ekyo kitutegeeza
yalinga disclaimer nti oba oliawo yandibanga
yakozeemu ensobi
n'akolamu ensobi.
Thank you. Era omuntu aba alina claim ajje.
Don't you think this is where the Basangwa Sara Kulatas, the Daudi Migerekos, the Dorkas Okalanyi come from.
Kati olaba ekyo kyebaddeko provisional certificates. Waliwo ate etteeka eddala baliyita land in Buganda. Provisional certificates 1922. Waliwo abantu ettaka lyabwe nga lyakola ki? Lyakubwanga surveys and mapping. Naye lwakubanga tebayinanga muka mu nsawo kusasulira byapa, amataka gaabwe gasigala mu register eyo. Etteeka baliyita land in Buganda. Provisional certificates 1922. Kale omukulu ono kye yali agezaako okubategeeza nti oba waliwo omuntu ng'ettaka ly'olabye wano baali kuba mu provisional certificates nga liri mmanyago, bambi jangu tutereze record eno. In fact bateekangawo ebbanga lya 1 month. Ne even after 1 month abantu bwe bagendangayo records baziterezanga. Now records is applying to the local land in Buganda. Provisional certificates 1922. Ne Dorkas Okalanyi, Sarah Basangwa Kulata, ne Daudi Migereko be baziyina. Ezo records Minister wa Lands Judith Nabakoba zayina okutunulako na establishing abani bannanyini mayiro ne bateekawo nakwata department ya surveys and mapping ne bagenda nga bakebera buli mayiro abasenze bebaani. Then Department of Surveys and Mapping nesengeka abasenze mirundi eji ababesenzanga bo nga tebafunye lukusa lwa nannyini ttaka be bayita trespassers at law. Nabo abayina ebibanja bajja ku ttaka nga bafunye olukusa lwa nannyini ttaka. Kati ne bagenda mu maaso ne bakola lists ezo. Bwe bamala okukola lists ezo ng'abantu bano bombi babaawudde kubanga tetwagala kuteekawo butabanguko mu ggwanga. Omukulembeze w'ettaka Judith Nabakoba ayina okugunjaawo engeri gy'anaateesaamu ne bannannyini ttaka okwakomodeetinga bano abantu abeesenza obwesenza nabo ne bafuuka baaki babibanja. Okiraba nti ekyo kiba kimazeewo fracas eri makati g'abantu abeesenza obwesenza n'abantu abafuna olukusa nga nannyini ttaka abawadde bonna n'abafuula abantu abafuna olukusa okuva eri nannyini ttaka. Bwamala ne batuula ne nannyini mayiro sekinnoomu ne bateesa ku ngeri ki abantu gye bagenda okusasulamu obusuulu ku mayiro. Bwe bamala okukola enteesaganya ezo nga minisita ye witness oba delegate wa minisita ye witness, ebintu bino ne biteekebwa mu buwandiike era endagaano ne zikola ki? Ne zikolebwa. Bwe bamala okukola endagaano ezo ne bazikwata ne baziregisteringa nga encumbrance ku mayiro. Bwe baziregisteringa nga encumbrance ku mayiro, then residue by balance negenda ewa landlord. Ekyo ndowooza otegere kye bayita Mengo mu Buziba. Kikuddiremu kuba ngenda nakukiddamu mu Luzungu. Kuba bino ebintu byenjogera ne minisita ayiga biyigi tabimanyi. Ate abantu abandi badde babimugamba ba Dorkas Okalanyi tebayina buvunaanyizibwa na magezi gabayamba gonjoola nsonga zino. Abagezi abasobola ogonjoola ensonga zino bali ku Investigator. Kati genda kubiddamu ne mu Luzungu. Bannaffe abatategeera Luganda basobole okukola ki? Okubitegeera nga gazeti zino bwe zaawandiikibwa bawandiikanga mu Luzungu ne mu Luganda.
Kubansonga nkulu eyettaka.
Thank you. Now asoke mwemuneka
weyagadde.
Now the only way that we can sort the land problem that is prevalent in areas of central Uganda and western Uganda for the people who are occupying lands but they do not have titles is not the method that was proposed by the Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development to create a law where obusuru and envojo is deposited at the Gomborora. This will create more confusion and will create double titling. From what we have so far addressed, we have established that there are records like this gazette and the certified gazettes that will show you subsequent, where the names of the holders of Mairos are registered. There are similar books like this that apply to the Ankole Landlord and Tenant Law 1937. There are also similar laws like books like this that apply to the Toro Landlord and Tenant Law 1937. There are similar books that apply to the Mairos in Busoga and the Mairos in Imbali, which have Mairo landlords in those areas. These records exist. However, they were confiscated by the former Minister of Lands, David Migereko, and the Permanent Secretary Minister of Lands, who is Dorkas Okalanyi, and the effector at operational level was the interdicted Commissioner Land Registration, Sarah Basangwa Kurata. Now, instead of establishing a legal framework that is going to be costly to the government, we have all seen that the records that apply to the particular Mairos and the old land laws of Ankole and Toro and Busoga and other customary areas actually exist in Uganda. They were previously archived at Entebbe, at the Office of the Commissioner, Mapping and Survey. Other records have been archived as a backup in Nairobi, in the same institution. Other records were archived in England at the Buckingham Palace. Then there is also the survey firm that did that was consulted to do these records, which is in England, whose names I'll find out and I'll give to you. So, it is incumbent on the Minister of Lands, Honorable Nabakova, to call interdicted Commissioner of Lands, Sarah Basangwa Kurata, to call her former counterpart, Emeritus, Honorable David Migereko, and also call the present Permanent Secretary of Minister of Lands, Dorkas Okalanyi. Then if she does not actually know what to ask them, call people like me, who are going to create a series of inquisitorial questions that are going to enable us get those records and put them where they belong. Now, after we have gotten those records and put them where they belong, we will then have to look at the computerized management information system to see whether these records have actually been put onto the system. Why? Because Effect 68 of the RTA Cap 230 states that for every title that you hold, you should be able to explain the record of that title from the time when land was first titled. Now, these gazettes and the records that are being held by Sarah Basangwa Kurata, David Migereko, and Dorkas Okalanyi illegally give us that information. This will help us cover the gap that we have in the computerized land management information system. Then subsequently, we are going to put up a project which will make the commissioner the state, the government, because you and me are the government. The state is going to put up a project that will be headed by the Commissioner Mapping and Surveys in Entebbe, whose duty will be to look at these old records, establish who the Mairo landlords are, look at the cadasters, match the gazettes with the cadasters. Then if the titles are not there and they are misplaced, we will have to formulate special titles that record the history of the land in the system. Thereafter, the Commissioner Mapping and Surveys will be put under obligation to go and look at the 19,600 square miles in Buganda to establish who the present occupants are. This will help him retire. It will help him establish which people have titles over these Mairos. It will help him establish who the Bibanja holders, who the legitimate Bibanja holders are. It will help him establish who the trespassers at law over these Mairos are. Now, because the Honorable Minister wants to create a consolidation and to solve the problem that is existing today. She wants to, we will have established who the Vibanja holders are. We will have established who the criminal trespassers at law are. After we have established these persons, the minister or her delegate will have to sit with the Mairo landlords and negotiate on how best they are going to address the issue of the criminal trespassers at law so that they are made Bibanja holders. Once these agreements are reached, formal deeds will be drafted. The deeds will be used as an agreement has to be reached with the private Mairo landlords, allowing government to issue certificates of occupancy that cover the Bibanja holders that will be registered as encumbrances on the Mairo. You get what I'm saying? First wait, yes. And I finish. Now, once that is done, we would have settled both the criminal trespassers and the Bibanja holders legally and have addressed their ownership in the Mairo title. Now, after having established the Bibanja holders, it will be very easy to know which persons to take the Busulu to without having to involve the Gombora, whose work is already too much.
All right. Yes. Munyinyonyola ya obuvono buddo mdoli tozettaka. Ndabira ddala ng'ebizibu bingi nnyo. Bye tukyayolekedde okufunira solution wano ku Investigator TV. Let me give you a case scenario. Ewaffe ebusoga. Bwe nze nga nannyini ttaka. Bwe nakwananga ewuwo. Nompa either your sister baani. Nga nina waddemba okusalira kakonze mukoto genda kubeera eri ebisolo bikuliira eyo wekka. Sembera wano tubeere wano tutandika okukola community.
That is good.
Yes. Abo gye bali.
Era katsoke twandolinga abo.
Era balina ne
kati gwe nyinyi okyogedde nti nze nayinanga ettaka lyange. Nfunye omukyalo okuva ofunye omukyala wayine ettaka lyo. Ofunye omukyalo okuva mu family yo. Naye ettaka lyo we liri customary.
Ne ndaba because then ndo abajjajja tebalowooza nga ettaka lijja kufuuka.
Bayina obuntu. Ne kakati ettaka eriri mu Uganda dingi nnyo compared to the population. That vast chance of land in this country are very empty. The land is enough. Let's do that. That not be a problem. Kati gwe nyinyi ogambye nti okutte ettaka lyo.
Ndiwadde
mukoddomi wolimuwa bw'omulimu omanyi ky'olina okukola wawandiikanga endagaano gye bayita gifting deed eraga nti okoze eki omugabidde awo ettaka eryo munkomeredde. Kati muyinza okubanga mu budde obwo gwe wafuna ekyapa naye mukoddomi teyatwala buvunaanyizibwa kufuna kyapa kubanga mwalina ki entegeeragana eri beyond arm's length. Kati okusobola okujjawo giri emigozo bano mwenna mwemanyi. Kati oli commissioner surveys and mapping ogambye wagenda okujja ajje ewuwo tatya alage nti ekyapa kya tatya kyekiriwa kyekino. Yakutirya kaani mukoddomi wo era ajja kumapinga ekyo ekifo kyewakutirako mukoddomi wo nakyo kiwe instrument number bakikolera eki ekyapa. Oba bamuwa mu ttaka bw'oba bamuwa mu kibanja then mukoddomi we alina okutuula nammwe n'ategeeragana ngeri ki gy'agenda okuddukanyamu ebyobusulu n'envujo ku kibanja kyemwakola ki kyemwamuwa. Tolabanga ekyo kigiba gyewo ebintu byolowooza nti bizibu okusootinga.
Singa generations nga 5
nebwe siba generation
tatya nze I have long gone. Generations z'abatatya endala nga 5
oyogedde bulungi
nebagala okujjako
tatya wawassa.
Yes.
Ewaffe n'okwata ettaka n'okola ki n'olimba wawassa ewaffe tulina relationship enono yonna gyemanyi nti ne tuzaala generation 10 okuva kati bajja kuba bamanyi nti abo basenga awo nga gundi awasize ewa gundi. So it doesn't matter how many generations have taken place. It is just going back to the history and then realigning the history to fit the Lands Management Information System.
All right. Just yesterday, waliwo RDC eyabadde mu mbeera bwetyo nga naye agenze mu kugonjoola nsonga za ku ttaka. Era mu Buganda wano nerabidde bakifo ki, but I think somewhere in Luweero oba somewhere there. RDC ono owaleero alina buyinza ki obugonjoola ettaka?
Kati kyenjagala omanye RDC
era so no yekka
njogera RDC ba Uganda bonna. RDC ye representative wa head of state mu location gye mulimu. Era RDC bwajja okuyingira mu nsonga z'ettaka abazzenga arbitrator oba omutabaganya. RDC abawuliriza mwembi n'abagamba mwenna mukole ki, muleete ebiwandiiko era munnyonnyole obuvo n'obuddo obwannannyini bwammwe kuki ku ttaka eryo, nga waliwo olukiiko lw'abantu ababadde ku kyalo ekyo okumala ki ebbanga eddene, era abantu abo be bamukakasa nti ki, nti mwe ababiri abalina emigozo bano bye mwogera bye bituufu. Bwe mumala okutunulira ensonga zino mu ngeri ey'ekisajja kikulu, mwe mwennyini musobola okutegeera obuzibu bwawe bukola ki bwe buva. Kati omulimu gwa RDC nga mumaze okutegeera obuzibu mwenna bwe buva, engeri gye mbadde mwenna olukiiko olwaki olw'ekyalo mukola okusalawo okutekebwa mu buwandiike ne musalawo nti ono agenda either kutwalako portion nene y'ettaka ono atwaleko eno, oba ettaka si lyono naye ono ayinza okuba yeesenza ku ttaka lyono. Kati ekiddeyo ku kiri kye nagambye nti kati awo RDC ono aba yeesenza bwesenza ku ttaka lino aba alina okuwandiika report n'agitwala mu Ministry of Lands ewa permanent secretary wa Ministry of Lands.
Ono gwe tugambye nti bwe buzibu.
Bwe buzibu. Kati report eyo n'annyonnyola nti naye waliwo omuntu ono yazimba ennyumba ye ku ttaka ly'omuntu ono, naye abantu bano bandyagadde okukola ki okutegeeragana. Naye nze amateeka teganzikiriza kola ki kuteekawo biwandiiko binaakola ki binatabaganya bano bombi abantu bano. Mbadde nsaba ompeeyo olunaku ndete ttiimu yange ey'ekyalo n'abantu nga weebali tulabe engeri ki ennuŋŋamu gye tuyinza okumalamu obwannannyini ku ttaka lino. Ojja kumaliriza nga nannyini ttaka akkiriza nti ddala ono afuuke waaki wa kibanja. Ono bw'afuuka ow'ekibanja ekyo bajja kukiteeka mu buwandiike era bajja nakutegeeraga kye bagenda okusasula ng'obusuulu n'envujju. Ekyo bapewo nga bakoze eki bakimaze. Kati oli surveyor bw'anajja okuva mu mapping and survey ajja kusangawo ebiwandiiko bino byajja okukozesa okola ki okola basis ya titling. Ekirungi ekiri ku bintu bino byenjogera nti amateeka bajjajjaffe baagakola dda. Omuntu oyo bajja kumukubira ettaka lye bajja kuba balikuba mu tteeka baliyita Land in Buganda Provisional Certificate 1922. Nti survey ne mapping bajja kuba bakubye ettaka eryo. Naye lwakuba omuntu ono tebanategeera busuulu na nvujjo oba tebanategeera nti agenda kwegula mu ttaka, ettaka balikubye records ne baziteekawo ne bakakasa nti ddala omuntu oyo akola ki waali. Kati bwe bamala okutegeeragana bino bye mbadde njogerako wammanga, omuntu oyo then aregisteringa eno provisional certificate nga encumbrance ku mayiro ne tuba nga tumazeewo emigozi oba ne giri ku ttaka. Zino solutions President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni z'anoonya. Dorkas Okalanyi byatamanyi n'abantu bakola nabo mu Ministry of Land.
Kyo gamba nti tabimanyi.
Singa yali abamanyi singa babikola dda.
This is
all true. There is outright fraud. Why? Kwajjukira twakisudde nti ba Dorkas Okalanyi ne Sarah Basangwa Kulata ne Daudi Migereko n'abantu abali bakola mu Ministry of Lands mu budde obwo bakwata records eza gazettes eza cadasters ne records zonna ez'ebyapa ezapplyinga ku byapa ebikadde mu Central Uganda, Western Uganda, Eastern Uganda, Northern Uganda. Ne babikweka ne batandika okukola ebiwandiiko ebyekimpatiira ku mataka g'abantu nga balowooza kino tebali kizuula. Kati kifuuse ensonga kizuuliddwa era tukikola laki tubawe eddagala lyakyo. Okitegedde ssebo? Mbuuza ekibuuzo ekirala.
Well, twagambye we are not all safe. Kati kino kirekawa because onyonyodde bulungi obuvo n'obuddo bw'ettaka ennono y'ettaka mu Buganda ne Uganda. Ani baitaka baali kuba batya, baali waani, waliwo abasenzeeko, waliwo yes. Kati emu ku programs zaffe zino eza Mengo Buziba twayogerako ku Buganda issuing land titles mweri gundi gye era twagamba nti nayo nfu system yaabwe kati ekyo kirekawa abantu abalina titles zino okuva mu Buganda.
Kati abantu bakizule nti babbibwa. Automatically waliwo Latin maxim bagita falsus uno falsus omnibus. Ekintu ekitegeeza ekintu ekibanga kikyamu okuva mu lubereberye n'ebyo byonna ebikiddirya bikola ki biba bikyamu. Kati oba abavubuka b'Emengo abavubuka b'Emengo bagenda ne banonayo ebiwandiiko ebyamanyi bulungi nti ettaka lye banonyeeyo si byabwe, bo ne bagenda mu maaso ne beekobana ne Dorkas Okalanyi Sarabasangwa Kulata n'abantu abali Ministry of Lands obudde obwo ne batandika okukola ebyapa ebyekimpatiira ku mataka agatali bigaabwe ne batemamu ebifi ne babaguza. Mwe ne mutatwala buvunaanyizibwa kunoonyereza kusanga information ngeno gye tubawadde mwabbibwa. Ayagala okukitegeera asome omusango baguyita Konda Zimula Vasbya Rugaba and another. Omulamuzi yagulemu bamuyitanga Lord Justice J.W. Kwesiga. Yes. Asome omusango gugamba nti nga tonagula ttaka oyina ebintu ebyenkizo by'oyina okukola okukakasa nti ekyo ky'ogula ddala kituufu kubanga ettaka si nnyaanya nti ozigula ku mudaala. Bintu bigenda kubeerawo budde bwankomeredde era mwetaaga okubinoonyerezaako. Naye kubanga saagala kuleeta butabanguko mu Buganda Kingdom. Abantu nze saagala kuleeta butabanguko mu Buganda Kingdom. Eno process gye mbagambye gye tugenda okuyitamu ne gavumenti ejja kutuyamba okuzuula bani abaatunda ettaka ne baliguza abantu ng'ettaka si
lyabwe.
Bwe tunamala okuzuula nti abantu bano beekobana ne Ministry of Lands ne bakola ebyapa ku mataka agatali gaabwe ne babiguza abantu abo balina okubeera held accountable under both civil and criminal law of Uganda. Nga mwe mulina n'abantu be muyita abakungu b'Emengo. Okitegedde ssebo? Kubanga abakungu b'Emengo omutima, the spirit, I will first of all express this in English so that our people who are not Baganda understand it. The spirit with which the head of state actually handed over titles in compliance with chapter 247 of the laws of Uganda, traditional leaders and restitution of assets, was to solve the problems that were caused by the enactment of Effect 118 of the 1966 Constitution. He did it so that people who had lost their land and property as a result of government confiscation using the law could get back that property. Now, what was supposed to be done at the time? We were supposed to do proper restitution. After formulating the first law, the Parliament of Uganda was supposed to table a bill that was supposed to highlight how the restitution was supposed to be done. Why? Because from 1969 to 1993, the Uganda Land Commission that existed continued to create encumbrances over these lands that government had confiscated without the consent of the landlords. Now, the people who had purchased these tenancies had made developments over these lands. So the government had to establish a legal framework that describes the mode of operation about how these people who had bought interest between 1969 and 1993 would be sorted. There are supposed to be two ways. Either they would be inculcated into the land ownership system, or the government had to create a fund in form of reparations, which it was supposed to use to compensate whatever these people had done on that land, including the goodwill. This meant that this law, the restitution law, had to have a provision for the legal framework. It had to have a provision for the financial systems that were going to be used. And there was supposed to be a department in Ministry of Finance whose duty was to specifically ensure that the restitution has been done correctly. If it had been done through that way, then it would not have the problems that Charles Peter Mayiga, David Wasajja, Apollo Nelson Makubya, Timothy Masembe, David Mpanga, Martin Kasekende, Hamis Kakomo, Chimba Freeman, Rehema Navuma Wadera, Chizito Bashir Juma, Joseph Kayemba, and there's another Joseph Chimbowa, Joyce, there's a girl called Joyce Wukirwa, and others, Dennis Bugaya, and others have created to mess up this country's land system. If we had done that restitution properly, we would even have, because that restitution actually brings back the Buganda Land Board that was created at the same time as the Uganda Land Commission, we would have established a modus operandi to know which public assets actually fall under the domain of the legitimate Buganda Land Board, and which assets actually fall into the domain of the legitimate Uganda Land Commission. But because the lawyers who are existing then, who are now senior members of the Uganda Law Society, did not have good spirit for this country, they decided to drive the country into murky waters, established conflicting laws, which are the reason why we have double titling, land grabbing, true blue fraud, and title forgery. So we now have to go back to this position and set it correctly so that we are able to solve these problems once and for all. What I'm talking about here has been done. Similar problems were incurred in 2000. You remember in 2000, we had problems in the US and the UK where we had banks like Barings collapse in the UK. We had companies like WorldCom, Tyco, and a series of other companies in the US collapse because laws had been made that were conflicting, that would accommodate people to do fraud. What these big governments did was to go back and look at the laws, then create a legal framework which would sort the problem like we are doing today. And that's the reason why we have things like the Combined Code of Corporate Governance, which is a global issue, and we have laws like the Sarbanes-Oxley 2002 in the United States of America, and other laws aimed at sorting these problems. So the only way we can sort this is agreeing that mistakes have been done. We make laws that correct these mistakes, and we hold those people who are supposed to have corrected these mistakes liable for the fraud and the fraudulent misrepresentation, fraud, and white-collar crime in which they were involved. This will sort the land problems in this country once and for all. Oyagala kudde mu Luganda?
Nedda si nnyo naye. You're saying nti land mess kati gye tulaba was created.
It was legally created
1966
and 1993. That is the first phase.
Yeah.
Then the other problem is created between 1993 and 2024. So we have phase 1 and phase 2. The solution I've given you is for phase 1. Now the solution for
today was 1969
69 Public Lands Act. Then tulabe kuba records zino tuzina. So the records are correct from 1900 to 1969. In 1969, customary land is got, and then it is vested into the Uganda Land Commission using the 1969 Public Lands Act. This goes on like that until 1993. However, when it was vested into the Uganda Land Commission, the Uganda Land Commission did not leave it vacant. The Uganda Land Commission went ahead and created tenancies under lease and freehold over these lands. Yes? Then, in 1993, people sit and they create a local chapter 247, which was returning the traditional rulers. And it was supposed to restitute those assets. However, the restitution was not properly done. We have discovered that law was not properly detailed. We are discovering it in 2024. Imagine. Now, that means that the encumbrances have been done from 1969 to 2024. Now, how would we solve this problem? The best way of solving this problem is going back to the root and do a root cause analysis. See how the encumbrances were created, and then find a way of amicably settling the encumbrance settlements between the original landlords and the encumbrance makers after 1969. That's the solution.
Mr. Juk, Omulangira Juk, ndabanga gwe are creating more problems.
There are no problems.
Than solving a problem.
No, let me,
because
Satya,
sawa ya lero sigatugaman today yoko 1969.
Let me give you an example. Do you think tugenda kufuna engeri gye tukulungamyamu awo w'otudde nga tetulwanye? But do you think Uganda as a country is bigger than a company called JP Morgan Chase in Manhattan? It is called JP Morgan, the bank. One of the world's biggest banks. That bank every day has over 1 million transactions. Every day. In 2000, when we discovered that there were mistakes that were done in the accounting standards that led to poor compliance with the law, we had to go back and restate the position for JP Chase Manhattan, the group and its subsidiaries, in line with the law. From when the mistake happened. Imagine a bank that has 1 million transactions every day. Ministry of Lands does not have 1 million transactions every day. We can solve this Ministry of Lands problem in less than 3 years. If we are serious, because for me, I know my teams we can collect. There are guys in Ministry of Finance who I know are sober. There are guys in Ministry of Internal Affairs who I know are sober. There are guys in Ministry of Defense who are sober. There are guys in the Ministry of Lands who are sober.
There are guys who are sober in the media like me.
No, as there are guys in the media who are sober like you. We just need to put up a strategic plan. That is going to, first of all, tell the public what we are going to do. And that is going to keep the society secure. Because the properties we are talking about, some of them have even been mortgaged to banks. So we need to give people the assurance that whatever we are going to do is not going to distort the economy. The economic position as is.
That's the one.
But it is going to be able to restate the position to reflect a true and fair view of everyone's asset tenancy on land in Uganda. And it is going to be an all Uganda issue. It is not a Buganda issue. Because distortion was done on customary land in northern Uganda. It was done on customary land in eastern Uganda. It was done on the landlord and tenant land in Korea, Bunyoro and Toro. So this problem is national. So, and the people to do it, that is why we are saying, but is Grace Okalanyi, why did Grace Okalanyi see these problems? Is she sufficient and appropriate for this job? But we have even gone further and realized that Grace Okalanyi, Wagemi, is involved in the fraud and the forgeries. So we don't want her to get fired today. She has, people are important in this, Grace Okalanyi, Sarah Basangwa Kurata,
David Migereko,
and the people they worked with at the time to confiscate the people's records are very critical in this matter. We will do a forensic audit, line by line, title by title, until all questions have been answered. Once the questions have been answered, we shall create cases. Automatically, some of them will be referred to Internal Affairs and Ministry of Justice, for them to handle. And for us professionally, we shall say to our people. And this will be done and dusted. So you can't tell me that it is, this is a very few, 69 to 2024, less than 1 million transactions a day. We will do this year work in less than 3 years and we'll have delivered on this job. We already have the records. Some of us have collected these records from where they come from, and we have them. So it is just fixing things the way they are supposed to and going through an established modus operandi. That is going to ensure that everyone has proper tenancy where he is. And this is advantageous for Uganda because finally, each and every one of us will either have a marital title, a freehold title, or a certificate of occupancy over the land. And because land is used for mortgage purposes, you can use your property for equity release and everyone will get a capital outburst and you are good to go. Yesterday when the minister was reading the budget, he read it with the exception of revenues, that anticipated revenues that are going to come from oil and gas. Automatically, these anticipated revenues are going to be kept by the Treasury. And subsequently, the government will have to lend it to the public so that they drive private investment. Because the president told you that the economy can only be improved by private investment. So once we have that window and we have organized the land issue, people can be able to obtain capital using their certificates of occupancy and titles in form of freehold or marital to access capital that is going to be readily available from oil and gas for economic development. And this will create another Dubai. Oh. So you see how strategic we are in this country.
Never your solution, potentially, is
and these are real solutions. They are not ideal. These are real solutions.
Ngabo yogedde ku budget. Yesterday I was listening into the president, ne Minister of Finance, Mati Yakashayija ngaba batuwa
the 2040 vision for this country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ne budget engeri gye bagisengese ng'olabira ddala nga Uganda will be Dubai in the next 10 years.
Yes. But the only way we can get there is if we sort this land problem. Why? Because land is one of the factors of production. It is land, enterprise, organization, labor, and capital. So if we have one of the factors of production being handled in a matter that is remiss, then we cannot have sufficient and appropriate economic growth that is envisaged at both a macro and microeconomic level at a very strategic term. So the solutions I am giving today are aimed at ensuring that we take the country from where it is to where it is envisaged by those running the state at a strategic management level. The first problem we have to fix is the mess in Ministry of Lands. Actually, we need to do business process re-engineering completely over the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development in this country. Check the human resource, check the equipment in therein, and the software systems therein to see that they are being designed in a manner that matches the economic strategy for which this country is envisaged. Yeah, this sounds a little skeptical solution. This sounds a bit complicated. No, you see, guys, we cannot run in a mess forever. But we can solve ngabwe ziri kitegeza ati zine sentence anava mu oil and gas bwezinajja nga tati ya wosura toyinawo kintu kikakasa nti gwe nannyini ttaka kitegeza toyinza kufuna toyinza genda mu banka newola ku zine sente eziriwo ezinabazize nga ziri ku interest rate ya wansi lwaki temuleka ne tusotinga ensobi eno leero oba jjo ne musobola okubanga sente zino we zijjira namwe mwinayo obusinziro obayamba okulaakulana n'ogaggawala nga bannayuganda. It is complicated. It is hard.
Indeed,
it is going to be hard work. It is going to be hard work, but it is doable. And between you and me, we have the wisdom to structure this, what we are talking about, using local talent, that is one, sufficiently and appropriately two, and we are going to build a management information system that is going to end land grabbing forever. Now, the advantages it has is that it will settle people. Then two, it is going to expose those who have been forging titles, who have benefited in land title forgery. Three, it will take everyone where he belongs, once and for all.
Well, I hope Buganda is listening, Uganda is listening, the world is listening. The only solution to the problem of land in Uganda is to go back to the 1969 mark.
And then we move forward.
There we shall have solved everything. Takumira mpera batukumire mwelaba.